Hey, welcome back. Thanks for listening. You are hearing Kimile on Heal with Kimile podcast. Hey, today I want to talk about your children and how you know something's going on with them. I'll tell you, their behavior changes. And so if you've got a teenager or 10, 12-year-old and their behavior suddenly changes, their grades are not as good, there's something that shifts in their results in their life. They've got somebody around them, probably new in their world, that they're not feeling secure around. They're not feeling safe around. Or it's a friend that's jealous, or it's a coach that's putting pressure on. But I promise you, when children change, when their behavior radically changes, there is an influence there that's going on. I have a recent client that his son is just not the same, so he's just been off. He used to get straight A's. Now he's getting C's and D's. And I said, is there any new friend in his circle? Is there anything happening at the home front? So we looked to see what would maybe cause him to not care so much. And he seems moodier. He's got a mood, defensive, very defensive. And he just doesn't apply himself. He's almost feeling a little insecure, feels a little inadequate. And so the dad's calling me saying, what do I do with this? What am I supposed to do with my boy? I'm worried sick about him. This isn't him. This is not how he's always operated. And I said, let's really dissect this and see what is going on. When did this start? It's important that you pinpoint exactly when the change of behavior was first noticed. And it might be a little before that, because maybe when you notice it, it's been going on for a while. But it probably started for this young man, and I think he's 14. Young athlete, he's playing baseball, good little athlete. But he's not really doing well in sports right now. He's having a hard time. He hurt his ankle, but the behavior shift happened before he got injured playing the sport. So I said, look around. Any new coaches, any new friends, anything happening in the home front that just seems benign. It doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, but it might be a big deal to your kid. And so we looked at, yes, he's got a new friend, new coach, and the coach's son is now his new friend. And look, this kid's a great athlete. He really is a performer. And, the coaches lean on him. He's kind of playing him a lot. He's using him a lot. He doesn't use his own kid. He doesn't have him play as much as my client's son. So I wondered if there was a little jealousy with this coach's boy that, his buddy's getting played more. I said, just consider that. And then we looked at anything happening in the home front. Well, the older son has got a girlfriend. So he's not as available. He doesn't hang out as much. He doesn't talk to his little brother that much. He's almost like annoyed, like, hey, I want to be alone with my girlfriend here. And this kid's 16. His life's changing, right? He's met girls and figured out what girls were at 16. And so life is changing. So his priorities have changed. He's no longer wanting to play the games and hang out with his little bro. So he's got that strike number 2 against him, which is definitely making him feel invalidated or, in a way, he understands logically, but he still misses his bro. And they were both playing sports together and they were both good. And then the third thing going on is mama used to be full-time mom in the home, every meal, there when they go home from school, doing homework, playing catch up all the time, driving him here, driving him there. Like she was 100% super mom. Well, she's figured out, I'm bored. I want to have a different life. I want a different experience in my life. I'm going to kind of go do something. So she's become politically inclined. She's out doing, living her life, best life, rubbing shoulders, getting pictures with, doing some political endeavors, ran for an office and won. Good for her, right? But here's this young teen feeling abandoned. So all of that translates to him, well, I guess I don't matter, or it doesn't matter what I do anyway, because my grades don't matter, I don't matter. And the slump that this young teenager finds him in is obvious once we start pulling back and going, what shifted? What has happened in this boy's life to make him think, I don't matter anyway? And when I kind of got the father to see all of these changes, and they're benign, they're not necessarily at him, they're not trying to hurt him, but it is a change. And I think the one that probably tipped him over was the mama kind of being out of the house. And so other family members, other relatives are driving this kid around. Even parents of his friends are driving him around. Like he doesn't have the attention from mom like he used to have, right? So that to me was a big one. And so I strategized with the father and I said, look, I think it's important And we recorded the session. I said, I want you to have her listen to this recording. But I think it's important that she, on her own, just kind of comes out, oh, I miss you so much. I miss my boys. I want to do a big dinner. I'm spending time with you. We need to get together again. Let's watch a movie. She needs to put herself out there to him and say, I missed you so much. I don't know if I can keep doing this. I miss my boy. So that started happening. And we have noticed that he's got a little bit better mood. The brother, we had a little chat with the brother and just saying, hey, just be friendly, let him be part of once in a while, not all the time, but maybe you do still play games with him. You do still play catch with him. So he started actually helping him with his ankle. So he helped wrap it. They're working out. He's doing a little physical therapy with him, and he's been available to him when he can be. But he's also paying attention and noticing, texting him more. And they've scheduled some time together, actually. So that seemed to shift him. And then just to, he can't really play ball right now, so the friend likes him a lot. He's maybe not jealous of him anymore because his dad can't play him like he was. But it's really important that you watch your kids, and sometimes their behavior radically shifts, and you're wondering, what the just happened? This isn't who I know them to be. And maybe they're moody, they bite your head off, they're, just procrastinating. Something is happening in the background, and you've got to pull back and say, where's the change? I mean, I've got horror stories I could share with you about, clients of mine that met a young girl and all of a sudden, they're doing drugs, drinking, not coming home, sneaking out, breaking through the window, not having integrity with their parents, lying. And his son was never like that. This young kid was never like that. They were a good boy and blah, blah, blah. So I will tell you that when they first get introduced to sex, alcohol, porn, every adolescent that goes through these introductions to these kind of things typically go through a spiral moment, I call it. And so if your teenager is spiraling and they're not doing what they're supposed to do and they're evasive, of course they're shame-filled. They don't want to tell you. They're not going to tell you anything because they don't want you to know. You're going to judge them. They're in trouble. And maybe they're not ready to stop. A lot of times when sex comes into play or porn, they have never seen this stuff before. They're curious and then they're embarrassed. And there's so much stuff that goes on with that. And it's sad, but true. Most kids see porn on their phone, right? It's just, I dislike porn. I really do. We didn't have that struggle growing up in my era, but it is a big deal to these young kids nowadays. And so you want to be a proactive parent and maybe have these conversations. And not in a, are you looking at, if you kind of come at them with that kind of an attitude, I'm telling you, you're going to shut them down. They're not going to want to talk to you. They're going to feel, embarrassed. And not that you want to share everything, or maybe you do. My kids told me everything. I mean, I think, they told me a lot. I was like, in my mind, I'm thinking when they're sharing this, oh my goodness, you really do trust me. I was complimented that they shared these things with me. And I was really more complimented when they brought their friends home to talk to mom right after school because they were going through something. So they referred me like they were I was therapying their friends. Again, I felt very complimented by that, of course. But if your kids are going through some sort of change in behavior, you really need to sort out, before things get out of control, what is going on. When these young, beautiful girls get hit on by guys and they get this relationship, and I've seen this happen many times. There's the needy guy, needy boy, and he's, a teenager, maybe doesn't have both parents in the home, or there's something going on, and he latches onto a beautiful girl. He's immature, she's immature, they're young people. This is kind of normal stuff, I realize. But if they get alone a lot, he's going to want her to take care of him. And they do. These girls just fall head over heels. And then when I talk to him, he needs me so much. He's got so much going on. They're usually troubled boys. And these troubled boys latch on to these beautiful girls. And these beautiful girls don't realize that they're giving everything up for this boy to make sure he feels safe and secure, but not because it's a healthy relationship. There's no boundaries when you're that age. Love is just overwhelming. It feels like a drug. And then when the heartache hits, oh my Lord, it is so painful. It is devastating for these young people to lose a relationship. So if you've got that going on with one of your teens, you must be there. You really must have conversations. You've got to get into their world. You've got to understand what's really happening. When all this stuff was happening with one of these young girls, she had a friend, a so-called friend, basically kind of steal her boyfriend. This boy that couldn't live without her, and he loved her, and every chance he could, he wanted to spend time with her, and he pushed, sex on her, and she again just loved him so much she'd give him anything. She would spend all the time in her life with him. Her grades went to crap. She quit dancing. She was a beautiful dancer, had potential scholarship, but just gave it all up for this kid, right? And then he cheated on her with her so-called best friend. Oh, right. I know. Double betrayal. She'd given up her whole world. And this is when I was really worried about her. And I told her parents, you need to sleep on the floor next to her bed. You do not let her out of your sight, because she just got hugely betrayed by both of these people she thought she could trust and loved. And I said, you're going to get her out of here. You're going to take her to your sister's house in California. And so they kind of took her on a big trip. And I said, therapy, therapy, therapy. But educate her in what just happened. She needed to get herself out of there. I really was worried about her harming herself. She loved this boy so much and she gave up everything. She couldn't dance on the team. The tryouts were over. Like, she had the rest of the year to just feel like a nobody and a nothing and watch them kind of take off together. So I said, look, this is a life-altering moment in her world. I want you to treat it like a, potentially near-death experience for her, because it was, and get her out of there. Just get her out of that moment. Do not let her walk in and watch them making out in the hallway. Just don't let her get gutted like that every day. So we figured out a schedule with the school. She changed some classes around not to be around this so-called friend, not a friend at all. And, she kind of did some online things as well and was traveling. So we got a little plan around her to get her out of the hell she was living in. That shouldn't be her high school experience, But these young girls don't understand when they get targeted by these boys that are so needy and they're so desperate in a way. They're fearless. I mean, there's definitely a sex appeal there because they got nothing to lose. And obviously that was this kid. He was just going to find someone to kind of feed off of, so to speak. And now he's hurt the other girl too. I know, sad, but maybe a little karma for her as well. So pay attention to your kids when they're around people, school. It's critical to notice any major shift in their behavior or attitude or image. If their image radically changes, if they want to cut their hair, if they want to dye their hair, if they're going to do piercings and tattoos, like, where is that influence coming from? Okay. And not that it's a bad influence, but you as parents need to make sure you're paying attention to what is influencing my child. I'll tell you, the worst influences ever are when you've got divorced parents using the child bickering over crap and you miss it. When you miss the sign, when your kid's going through hell and you're so busy getting even with your ex-spouse, you're using the kids for material or to be a spy or to tell you things. You're now waiting for them to kind of feed you. You're not feeding them. You're not dealing with yourself as a parent. You're using the kid to get something out of it. That is the most despicable influence, and you don't want to do it. So I can't tell you how many kids go through so much crap. They don't trust love. They don't trust relationships. The happily ever after home it didn't exist. It's all a lie. They're just disenchanted with love and relationships and life. And a lot of people they're not getting married nowadays. And I blame some of this crap on divorced parents. So both of you, divorced people, I tell people this. It's like when they sit in front of me and their kid's going through hell. Well, what were you guys focused on instead of your child, And this is what your kid needs, is for you guys to focus on your kid. Kids will also act out and get negative attention if they can't get any attention. They'll do something stupid and get in a car wreck or drive drunk or something like that just to get your attention. So don't be naive to think that they're not needing you and they're just fine and you're the only one hurting because your ex-wife is and your ex-husband is that kid does not need to be caught up in your warfare. So please, please, please keep your kids out of it. I see so many kids right now struggling with identity, who they are, who they're going to be. And now we have AI kind of taking over in a way. And there's just so many things these kids are struggling with. And I do a kids group. I try and just love on these kids and just tell them that they matter, they're important. But if you're a good parent, you will pay attention to the signs. You don't need a lot of money. You don't need a lot of anything. You just need to care. You just need to care and be able to see that something shifted and then have the ability to communicate without getting mad. Just, say, I'm here for you. I love you. I'm mom. I'm dad. I want to know how you're doing in your life. I've noticed this shift in you. You want to talk about it? There's just so many things that you want to be paying attention to. I love kids. They're my favorite clients, actually. They're easier than adults. And I love what I do. I love work with people. Thank you for listening. If any of this is something you want to discuss further with me, I'm happy to talk to you. You can get a hold of me on my website at healwithkimile.com. That's HEAL with KIMILE.com. Thank you for listening. Bye now.